So before this video gets started, I want to give you guys a quick disclaimer. I recorded and edited this video before the news broke out that Richie Incognito got released by the team, but there is a chance that he might still re-sign with the team anyway, so the numbers might be a little bit different, but I do believe that Richie Incognito will return with the Raiders in 2021. So with that being said, enjoy the video. Yo, what is going on, Raidernation? It's your boy Samoa Raider back at it again with another video, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be putting together a Raiders rebuild for the 2021 offseason. I'm going to be trying to put together the best roster that I can from free agency to the NFL draft going into 2021 season to hopefully put together a contender and a playoff team. We know that this season is playoffs or bust, and I think everybody's going to be on the hot seat if we do not make the playoffs this season. And I know we got a lot of holes to fill on the defensive side, so going into this offseason, I'm going to try to fill them up as much as I can. But before I get started with this video, Raider Nation, if you love the Las Vegas Raiders and you guys fuck with my channel, don't forget to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Without further ado, let's get started with this Raiders rebuild.
And you tell them one thing, just win, baby.
So right now, we are sitting at $8.8 million in cap space. And the first thing to do is make some cuts to free up some cap space. Now, we already know that we released Tyrell Williams and Gabe Jackson. Now, other names that I will go out and cut, first up would be LaMarcus Joyner. That would save the Raiders $8.7 million in cap space. Now, I know LaMarcus Joyner hasn't done much for the Raiders, most of that in due part because of Paul Gunther, but I'm not going to hold that against him. And I don't even think that Gus Bradley would even bring him back next season, so that would save the team $8.7 million in cap space. Another name that might be surprising to a lot of people is Jalen Richard, which would save the Raiders $3.5 million in cap space. Now, I know you guys are wondering, yo, some more Raiders, why are we going to let him go? Trust me, there's a lot of good options out there in free agency and the NFL draft that would be a cheaper option. Another name out there is Jeff Heath. That would save the Raiders $3.15 million in cap space. Again, this is another position that I could easily replace in free agency and the NFL draft. I know Jeff Heath had a solid 2020, but again, there's better players out there. And last but not least, I would cut Arden Key, which would save the team $2.1 million in cap space. Now, Arden Key hasn't really done much since he's been drafted, so his ass is going to walk out of here. Now, a name that I know a lot of people are going to be asking about is Richie Incognito. Initially, I did want to cut Richie Incognito, which would save the team $5.47 million in cap space. Now, again, all of these numbers are according to SpotTrack. If you guys are wondering where am I getting these numbers from, it's from SpotTrack.com, so don't think I'm just making these numbers up. But I believe with us releasing Gabe Jackson and the possibility of us trading away Trent Brown, I think it's best for the Raiders to bring back Richie Incognito for one more season. Now, the next move I would make would be restructuring Derek Carr's contract. Now, I know that we could extend him, which would save more money right now, but would be a cap casualty later on. But I would just restructure his contract, move most of his money to the later years, which would save the Raiders $9.2 million in cap space right now, which is good for the Raiders. Now let's move on to some trades. Now, the two biggest names that have been involved with a lot of trade rumors have been my cousin Marcus Mariota and Trent Brown. I'm going to package Marcus Mariota and a third-round pick to the New England Patriots to receive Stephon Gilmore. I believe that this is going to be the big splash move that the Raiders are rumored to make, you know, for a defensive player. And this move would just save the Raiders $3.3 million. Shit, you get Stephon Gilmore in return for Marcus Mariota and third-round pick, I think gets the job done. We know how much they want Marcus Mariota, and if we were to add a third-round pick, I think it would sweeten up the pot just a little bit. Already looking at this roster with Stephon Gilmore, Trayvon Mullen, Damon Arnett, Isaiah Johnson, and Amik Robertson.
My neck and my back.
I think our quarterbacks are set if we were to get Stephon Gilmore. Now, another name is Trent Brown. Now, this is a guy that we already know is going to be on his way out of here, whether we release him or trade him away. I think the best thing to do is trade him away. Now, I know a lot of people might be bummed out that I traded away a third-round pick, but don't worry. This is where I replace that, because I would trade Trent Brown to a team that needs a tackle, and a team that really does need him is the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I know that they could go out and draft one in the first round, but why do that? Save your draft capital in the first round and go get a guy like Jamar Chase. So I would have the Bengals trading away their third-round pick, the 69th overall pick, to the Raiders for Trent Brown. Now, this is 11 spots higher because initially we had the 80th overall pick. Now we have the 69th overall pick, which is good for the Raiders. So after all of those moves, the Raiders would be sitting at $53 million in cap space. Whoo-wee! Now, recapping all of those moves, the Raiders would cut LaMarcus Joyner, Jalen Richard, Jeff Heath, and Arden Key. We would restructure Derek Carr's contract, and we would be trading away Marcus Mariota Minnesota, and Trent Brown. In return, basically would get Stephon Gilmore and a 3rd round pick. Now, before I go into free agency, there's a couple of players that I would want to resign. The first name being Daniel Carlson, our kicker. He's had a solid 2020 season, and I would like to bring him back to a 1-year, $1.27 million contract. Now, another name that I think we definitely need to bring back is Denzel Good, especially for this offensive line, to a 2 or 3 year contract worth $4 million a year. I would bring back Tack McKinley to a 1-year prove-it deal for $2.5 million, and also bring back Raekwon McMillan to a 1-year deal worth $1.75 million in cap space. I mean, we did trade for him last season, so why should we let him walk? Bring him back to the team, have him as a depth chart piece at our linebacker position. Now, after re-signing all those players, we sit at $43.4 million in cap space, which is still good, and we still got enough money to go out into free agency to make some big splashes. And now, speaking of free agency, I have 2 big name free agents that I would sign off the back. The first name being the best defensive lineman in free agency right now, Leonard Williams. I would sign Leonard Williams to a 5-year, $56.2 million contract with a salary of $11.25 million in cap space. Now, I know he plays on the edge, but I would move him onto the interior on the defensive line. He would definitely bolster up this defensive line and give us that strength that we need on the interior to help out our guys like Max Crosby and Cleveland Farrell. Now, the next big name that I would go out and get is at the safety position with John Johnson, signing him up for a 4-year, $33.5 million contract worth $8.375 million a year. Now, I think that move would solidify our safety position. You know, John Johnson paired up right next to Jonathan Abram. You can't ask for anything better. But I'm not done on the defensive side. I would go out and sign KJ Wright to a 2-year, $13 million contract worth $6.5 million a year. Now, this is a linebacker that has already played under Gus Bradley, a really underrated linebacker that we could bring in to pair up next to Kukowski and Corey Littleton. And then the last name I would sign on the defensive side would be Trey Boston to a 1-year, $3 million contract. Now, I know we could go out and get more players, you know, for a smaller deal, but these are some of the main names that I would get on the defensive side. Now, speaking for the offensive side, I would go out and bring in T.Y. Hilton to a 1-year, $6 million contract. Now, we know that John Gruden has already stated that he wants to bring in a veteran wide receiver to pair up with Henry Ruggs, Brian Edwards, you know, Hunter Renfrow. So I think T.Y. Hilton would be the guy here. This is a guy that could come in, step into that Nelson Aguilar role, and ball out with this team in 2021. And another guy I would bring in is a veteran running back to pair up with Josh Jacobs would be Mark Ingram. I would ink him for a 1-year, $2 million contract. I think it'd be a veteran minimum contract, and I think he's a solid player to back up Josh Jacobs. Now, after all of these moves, we will be sitting at $6.3 million in cap space. So I think those are some really solid names that we could get in free agency that would help our defense and our offense, and we still have enough money to go get some smaller free agents if we wanted to, you know, sprinkle in here and there. Now, with all of that aside, we move on to the 2021 NFL Draft. And this is where I'm going to help out that defense just a little bit more. In the first round, with the 17th overall pick, I have the Raiders selecting Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, outside linebacker out of Notre Dame. Now, he's not just a linebacker. He could play safety. He could play slot corner, whatever you want him to do. He'd be the perfect pick here. Now, he might be small, but he can do it all. I mean, that all rhyme, but you know what I mean. Now, what he lacks in size, he does make up for it with his versatility, from lining up in the slot to playing in the box. He's basically a 3-in-1 player, which is good for the Raiders, who we all know needs help on that defensive side. Now, Jock is a part of a new breed of defenders, and under Gus Bradley, this could be a start of a new era in Vegas. You pair him up alongside of Nick Kwiatkowski, Corey Littleton, KJ Wright. Whew, our linebacker core already looking scary right now. Now, the biggest knock that a lot of people have on him is his size. I mean, he would come in as the smallest linebacker in the NFL, but the game is changing right now, Raider Nation. So if Koramoah is still sitting there at 17, it'd be hard for Mayock and Gruden to pass up on him. You're talking about a generational talent, but knowing them, they probably would pass up on him. But in my mock draft, I'm sticking with Jock with the 17th overall pick. Now, the only other player that I wouldn't mind getting at this position if we didn't get Jock would be Zevin Collins. In the second round, with the 49th overall pick, I have the Raiders selecting Peyton Turner, edge out of Houston. Now, Turner is 6'6", 245 pounds. This dude is a beast, and the biggest plus for me is that he's versatile on the defensive line. He could play on the inside or the outside, so wherever you want him to play, he'll play it. Now, the combination of his size, strength, and bend, it makes him a matchup nightmare on the defensive line, which is great for the Raiders. Now, I know he only played in 4 games in 2020, but he showed that he's only scratched the surface of his true potential. And under Gus Bradley, if we're able to untap that true potential, man, we have an all-star in the making right now. So our defensive line with Max Crosby, Cleveland Farrell, Peyton Turner, David Irving, Leonard Williams.
My neck and my back.
You're basically getting a player that could play 2 positions on a defensive line for the price of 1. So this move would be a win-win for the Raiders. Now in the 3rd round with the 69th overall pick that we received from Cincinnati, I have Trent Brown's replacement here at right tackle with Jalen Mayfield, offensive tackle from Michigan. 6'5", 320 pounds. This guy has raw power, holds his weight easily, and has a strong core. Now I know he struggles a bit in pass protection, overextends, which causes him to be off balance at times, but I do trust Tom Cable to coach up Mayfield and clean up some of his weaknesses, because once he does that, he'll be a hell of a player on our offensive line, and he'll be a much more cheaper option than Trent Brown would be in 2021. Now if you're looking at the starting offensive line going into 2021, we got at left tackle, Colton Miller. At left guard, Richie Incognito. At center, Rodney Hudson. At right guard, Denzel Good. And at right tackle, Jalen Mayfield. Now looking at this is a solid offensive line. 5 Mayock legs, believe it, ladies. Going into the 4th round with the 122nd overall pick, I have the Raiders selecting Jay Tufele, defensive lineman out of USC. Now we're gonna bolster up this defensive line with another guy here in the 4th round, which I think is a great addition to the team. 6'3", 305 pounds. Tufele has the skills to excel in a 4-3 defense, and that's perfect for the Raiders because that's the defense that we're gonna be running in 2021. At his size, he is very agile and has a quick get off, and paired next to Mo Hurst and Leonard Williams, he'll have a chance to make his presence felt in the NFL. Now everything that we have seen from him have been in 2019 since he opted out of the 2020 season, but in the 4th round, Tufele would be a steal. He could step in day 1 and be a solid rotational piece on our defensive line. Now in the 5th round with the 163rd overall pick, I have the Raiders selecting Tyree Gillespie, safety out of Mizzou. Now Gillespie is a name that is flying under the radar. He is considered a box safety, but he's got a lot of range in the secondary, has decent size, and plays aggressive, which shows on film. Now Gillespie has great explosiveness and takes good angles on run defense. If you watch his game against Alabama, he stuffed Najee Harris a couple of times at the goal line, but that's not all. He gets it done in coverage as well. Against the #1 tight end in the NFL draft, Kyle Pitts, he held him in check all game when he went one-on-one with a great one. In a division like the AFC West with many good tight ends like Fant, Kelsey, and Henry, he'd be a good fit in Vegas. Gillespie does lack some speed, but as a depth piece in the secondary, he's got a high ceiling, and this would be a perfect pick for the Raiders in the 5th round. Now you guys know that the Raiders do not have a 6th round pick thanks to Trent Brown, so we move on to the 7th round. With the 246th overall pick, the Raiders select Jamar Jefferson, running back out of Oregon State. Jefferson is a versatile back and could definitely be that change of pace running back behind Josh Jacobs. He would take over that Jalen Richard role in the backfield. Jefferson has quickness, lateral speed, good vision, physical, and is a solid pass catcher out of the backfield. But coming into Vegas, he would be our RB3 right behind Josh Jacobs and Mark Ingram. This would definitely solidify our running back core in 2021. So Raider Nation, what do you guys think about my first official Raiders rebuild? Do you think that this is the roster that could take this team into the playoffs or even deep into the playoffs to the Super Bowl? Is there anybody that you guys would change? Is there anybody that you guys disagree with? Or do you guys agree with everything that I had to say? I mean, that's pretty rare. But if you have something to say, let me know down in the comments below. What would you guys do in the offseason to help this team make it into the playoffs? So with that being said, if you guys enjoyed this video, again, hit that like button. If we could get this video to 1,000 likes, then I know that you guys enjoyed this, and I would do another one just like this one, a 2.0 version of this in the future. If you're a Raider fan and you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button as well and that notification just to notify you guys when I upload more videos just like this one. Until the next video, Raider Nation, this is your boy Some More Raider, and your boy is
And you tell them one thing. Just win, baby.